I need to make sure I don't get too sassy though. You love sassy Edwin? I got a balance here. I got to balance. Do I want to be sassy or do I want to be like calm roast? No, Chris Hansen is not good to me. So now that the Onision documentary has come out, I'm actually surprised that Onision didn't go after me until, you know, once the documentary finally came out, because he had already gone after everybody else in the documentary. So I finally get my turn, and let's just get into this. So he starts off the video talking about how he's going to be reacting to Creepshow Art's video, which her video is called Chris Hansen's Onision documentary is bad.
As some of you may know, I didn't participate in the documentary because it literally asked me to sign away all my rights. Check this out. This is the contract that they sent me, and it was like, hey, without any compensation, can we go ahead and just drag you through the mud, edit you out of context, do whatever you want with your name?
Okay, so the first points that he's got a problem with on this is that he doesn't want to be edited out of context, and he wants to be compensated. You know, if his name's gonna be dragged. Okay. So just pay attention to those 2 points.
And I get no damages, no nothing. Screw that. But you guys participating, you get free clout. So why wouldn't you participate is my question.
Okay, so catch that. He says, you get free clout. Why wouldn't you participate? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, you know? You get free clout, so why aren't you on it? Why aren't you on it, Repzilla? You get free clout. But it gets better.
The victims aren't real, so what is your angle?
The victims aren't real. Oh, okay. But you wish they would keep speaking your name, which they've stopped for a while. That way you would look a little bit less crazy, huh? Okay, that's actually assuming that he cares what he looks like, and the dude has no self-awareness, so never mind. Some of the chat says, oh my god, I didn't know Shiloh's a hologram. Yeah, she's not real.
Because let me be clear. Let me be straight up. Let me keep it 100%. This is a massive television network asking me, a singular human who makes YouTube videos in her spare times, to promote a project for them completely for free. This is a company asking me to do work for them for free.
Okay, so you're complaining about not being compensated for something associated with a fake #MeToo issue.
Isn't it interesting? Onision says, oh, so you're complaining about not being compensated? Yeah, literally what you did in the first 20 seconds of this video, dude.
Let's go ahead and listen to Edwin talk to me, because he had an opportunity to get the facts, and he said that he was going to interview me, but he never did. So
because you never accepted to do the interview. Coward. Hold on. Coward. Onision. Your little tail went in between your legs. What happened, boy? What happened? Edwin, I'm not live streaming with you unless we make it a fundraiser. Also, I refuse to donate myself. No, bitch, look, if I'm gonna agree to your terms of making it a fundraiser live stream, at least donate 10 bucks. Don't be such a cheap ass, bro. Lead by example. Otherwise, we can both demonetize our channels and live stream, but don't be a little bitch and find excuses out of interviewing with me, bro. Last year in March, he invited me to do a live stream randomly, and I said, hey, I want to know context. Why are you randomly emailing me? And hey, I'm still, if you're serious about doing an interview, we can arrange one, you know? Just me be completely transparent. I'm trying to catch up on the situation. Apparently Hansen backed out of doing an interview with you, so you're looking for YouTubers now? And then he's just like, we'll send you a link in 30 minutes. We'll be great to have you there. Like, what the and I'm like, dude, I'm living life, by the way. Like, I'm sorry if I'm not on my computer, like, checking my emails constantly, refreshing from. It's like, nah, man, I'm taking a social media break. Like, I got shit to do, right? If you want to do an interview, let me know in advance, and you know I won't pull a Hansen on you. I won't back up, because Chris Hansen backed off of doing an interview with him. Onision never accepted to do an interview with me. Okay, it wasn't on me. I offered to do an interview with him back in January of last year.
This is why I'm demanding people like pay me to be on their show, because they're making money.
So I literally said to him back in January that I would interview him, and if money mattered so much to him, I would give him all the AdSense from this interview video. Onision, if you'd be down to do an interview with me, I would give you all of the AdSense money on that video. If that's what drives you to do an interview, fine. But it's gotta be fair, and I will try to get receipts on all ends and make it as fair as possible. And was ignored. I'm like, okay, cool. Then in March, he emailed me, suddenly expecting me to drop everything for what? To interview him? Oh wow, well dude, sorry, no, I'm thinking about other things. I'm doing other projects. I mean, you know, like what? Like, and he wanted me to do a live stream too. And I said to him, before setting the date, can we have a conversation about what we both prefer to discuss in the interview? Preferably a call, but we can do exchanges here if you like, you know, through emails. I want to make sure there is no surprises for either of us, you know? I don't want to like throw any curveballs at him, and I was trying to be respectful, him not throw any curveballs at me. Like, I want to tell him, this is off balance. Let's not talk about the interview. And, you know, I don't want to throw anything that makes you uncomfortable as well. I know some people probably disagree with that, but I want to be fair to everybody, as fair as can be, even to the biggest assholes on the internet. However, the way I'd plan on doing this is we both record ourselves and you send me your footage afterwards to edit it all together. Even though it's not live, you'd still have your angle of footage to show, so you would know that I wouldn't edit you out of context or something you want to be said if necessary. I heard that is the reason you didn't want to do these interviews live, because, you know, he was afraid that he'd be edited out of context. So I'm like, okay, you know, you can keep your copy of the interview. You can record yourself. This is how I've done interviews a few times, so everyone's satisfied. I'm also okay with letting you know what makes the final cut, or even send you over a draft before it goes live. That is like way nice, you know, like way nice. So he says, sure, what time you want to talk? Then we have a phone call and we talk about possibly doing the interview. He was really calm throughout the whole like phone call too. We pretty much got everything squared away in like the first like 10 minutes, but God, he's kind of overbearing. And it was really weird. We talked for like probably like an hour, and I was like, well, now way too long, because he was obviously doing most of the talking. And in this video, you'll see like the few parts that he can spin me out of context. But yeah, like at times I was like just going along with what he was saying, because it just like, oh my God, let's keep going. Like stop. Like I don't care. Like anyway, let's go back to the video here.
So what did he have to say to me? Do I have permission to record this conversation?
Yes, sir. Someone's saying you have permission to record the conversation. Again, I was saying this because he's paranoid that people are gonna cut him out of context or say whatever. So I'm like, sure, I don't mind. But giving consent to be recorded does not mean you give consent to have the call distributed on your YouTube channel. You know, not that I should be surprised that he's obviously scummy and doesn't understand what consent, understand consent. You know, obviously this is nothing new, but it's shitty. I could easily edit plenty of that phone call to make him look terrible. Do you see me doing that? No, because I'm not a piece of shit like he is. The phone call is like an hour long, and I'm not doing that shit to him because I have like fucking morals and ethics, dude. And this dude obviously doesn't understand what those words even fucking mean. Oh, and by the way, yes, to make it 100% clear, this phone call was on April 2nd, 2020. This is already almost a year old. Okay, because I feel like some people got the misconception that we had this phone call like a week ago or something, like I'm buddies with Onision. Like, no, it ain't like that, all right? Oh, God, I cringe that like people would actually really think that. There's one part of this phone call that I think he makes me look terrible. Like, I think there's only one part. But what I said about Shiloh, I fully mean.
So with her, she just basically, I believe she was kind of abusing the platform, which, you know, she obviously got a big following from calling you out. And it's like, you know, that's fine and dandy to recollect and recall her experiences with you. But all of a sudden it started turning into something else, and I don't trust her.
Okay, so that's Edwin talking about Shiloh, who he was actually on the documentary, the same documentary with, saying he doesn't even trust Shiloh.
Awesome, bro. I love how you strip the context. Again, this is less than a month after Shiloh had gone wild on me on Twitter. In this same sentence, you hear me say, I don't agree with her abusing her platform. I'm saying, it's fine and dandy that she got followers from calling you out. I don't have a problem with that. When people call other people out and they get followers off of that, that's bound to happen. People are interested in drama and stuff. That's normal. However, Shiloh began abusing her platform by saying to people like Nicholas DeOrio, hashtag the platform predators, and by going off on me all for an entire weekend. Like, that's what I'm referring to. You know, but thank you for stripping the context, Mr. I won't do the documentary because they'll slice me out of context. Sit on a fucking stick, dude. I get it though. Like, I don't even blame people that fall for this, because the dude has a lot of conviction in his voice. Like, this is how he was able to manipulate so many people in his prime. And hey, I don't blame you if you can still do it, because now it looks like I'm conspiring with the guy. I'm not friends with this asshole. I need to make sure I don't get too sassy though. You love sassy Edwin? I got a balance here. I got to balance. Do I want to be sassy or do I want to be like calm roast?
The lead person on the documentary, Edwin, does not trust her.
You know, and I have no problem being objective. Like, I think she is the one that out of all the insults that you applied to everyone, she is the one that fits the vindictive one for sure. She's pretty transparent about it.
There you go. Him saying that Shiloh is vindictive as well.
Again, I am referring to the way that she came after me. I'm talking about how she went after me incessantly. And even the way that Shiloh went after Regina just recently in this past August, And the way that she just goes after people, the way that she told the girl to off herself, the way that she went after Nicholas DeOrio, the way that she goes after people, that is vindictive present day, yes. Nothing to do with your story, dude. Don't conflate the two. To be clear, I did not trust that she was using her influence on the platform, okay? She had gained like over 30,000 followers on Twitter, and she was randomly reporting people and calling for her followers to report people for no reason, or no good reason, rather. And I completely disagree with that, and I stand by it. To try to paint me in a certain light is pathetic, dude. I have never ever said, and you can even watch my videos on Shiloh, I have never said anything against her story speaking about you. I believe her. Yes, I don't like her. I don't have to like her to believe that you were a fucking prick, an abuser to her. And guess what? Even without her side of the story, you watch the videos. You watch the fact that she was 17 years old, and she was in Pennsylvania, and you went on a road trip. Your car broke down, right? You totaled, you hit a deer. And guess what? Instead of like fixing your car or turning around, going home, worrying about your own security, whatever you're doing, you booked a flight to go see her. How old were you? How old was Onision when this happened? 24, 25. Yeah, imagine the deer's last thoughts before it got murdered by this vegetarian body was probably like, oh God, I better have died for a good reason. No, that poor deer did not die for a good reason. It died for you to go to a state where you could legally engage in intercourse with a minor. Objectively speaking, you're a sick fuck, and you took advantage of a teenager. I don't even have to go into her story. Let's keep hearing.
That means that she's on a mission to destroy me, as she admitted in her own meltdown video before the police hauled her away. That's Edwin siding with me, saying that Shiloh is vindictive. The guy that is featured in the documentary talking about how horrible I am is actually betraying Shiloh.
I'm not betraying someone that I never even knew her story. I never researched, when I do my videos on people, when I did my videos on Onision in the past, if I talked about someone, I heavily researched them. But you'll notice none of my videos on Onision reference Shiloh. So therefore, I didn't really know her story all that much. To further show you guys how I'm not siding with Onision, because why would I side with him as it pertains to her story about him when like I said, I never researched it. In fact, listen to this part of the recording of the phone call that he didn't air for you. Of course, Homeboy's got receipts. Of course, I've got a copy of the phone call myself as well.
So with her, she just basically, I believe she was kind of abusing the platform, which, she obviously got a big following from calling you out. And it's like, that's fine and dandy to recollect and recall her experiences with you. But all of a sudden it started.
Again, it's fine and dandy to gain followers. If she's gaining followers, that's fine. It's fine that she gains followers from calling him out. But when you start abusing the platform, I don't like that.
Turning into something else, and I don't trust her. Even still.
Well, were you keeping up with all the going on back in the day with her?
Very loosely. I didn't really dive into her story in particular. So basically, as far as her, I just know the stuff that went on. I've been following her account recently. Everything from her account now, the patient zero stuff.
Interesting that he would cut that off. Isn't it interesting that he would cut off that part of the phone call where I say, I don't really know the Shiloh story as it pertains to you, and I just know the stuff that she's been posting on her Twitter, and he tries to frame it as if I don't believe what she went through with you. Wow, mister, I don't want to be edited out of context for the documentary, edited me out of context to serve his little agenda. Isn't that weird? Do you guys think that's weird? Don't forget, guys, this is the most honest YouTuber. Interesting how the most honest YouTuber manages to be so dishonest. Weird. Weird. Oh, it still says P break. I'm sorry. Gosh dang it. Well, I'm not re-saying everything. This is staying in the cut.
Can you go back?
I was calling out Chris Hansen on Twitter, and
were you? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Edwin's Generation, now on a documentary strongly driving that Chris Hansen is somehow a good guy. Originally, Edwin stood against Chris Hansen, acting like Chris Hansen's bad, but now I guess Chris Hansen's good to Edwin.
No, Chris Hansen's not good to me. Dude, I've made a bunch of live streams talking about why he's not good. Because I'm in a documentary in which he is also in, and I say no pleasant things about Chris Hansen in that documentary. That does not mean that I'm good with him.
Pretty two-faced, bro. Make up your mind.
Yeah.
Or whatever streams be.
I would just have to be more careful with my word, because I don't want to be on their scope anymore. They're intense.
Who? Hansen?
No. The anti-Os, the people that go to these Facebook groups.
Edwin's generation, terrified of the Antios, terrified that they'll find out what he really says behind the scenes. Watch out for Mr. Two-Faced Edwin.
They take this like.
Okay, how is that part even two-faced? How is that two? I've said it plenty of times in live stream. I've said it all the time. What?
And don't get it twisted. Like I disagree with plenty of you, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't make my videos. But like, and for that reason, it's kind of like, oh God, here I am agreeing with Onision again, because like
This isn't sounding good for Two-Faced Eddie, is it, you guys? You thought Eddie was all anti-Onision, but here he is. In fact, the majority of this call is him just agreeing with me.
No, you're misconstruing it. Me agreeing that Chris Hansen is bad and your anti-Os are also bad? That's not me agreeing. What? Okay, let's keep going. I don't.
It's interesting how Two-Faced so many YouTubers are.
So obviously, if there were things you want to talk about, would be Hansen. Like I wouldn't mind like giving that a little airspace, because I mean, I would like to talk about, make a video about him. But if you want to film there, I would gladly support some of the points as well. You know, so
Edwin's generation stating that he would support me making points against Chris Hansen. Why is he on Chris Hansen's documentary again?
Yes, I would, because if I'm gonna do a video in which he says something against Chris Hansen, I don't mind. You know what? My plan originally, like I said in the email, was I would get his side of the story on anything like Chris Hansen or whatever. Then I would reach out to Chris Hansen. If he doesn't want to speak on me for my video, then Onision would look like he's right, maybe. You know, Chris Hansen did not respond to comment. That's it. That's just it. Like, dude, that's just how I was trying to do, you know? Like, if he said something about Regina, I would reach out to Regina and be like, hey, Regina, this is what he said. Do you have any comment, right? And also, one of the things that I show... that I was planning, because I know how he is, like the way he talks to me, like it's so awkward. Like I do nervous, awkward chuckles. Okay, this is nothing new. And even you guys even can check out the interview with Keemstar. You can see how he talked all over Keemstar. Someone like Keemstar. Keemstar is such an aggressive and assertive person. If he can do that over Keemstar, then yeah, he would probably do the same to me. That's why I literally asked Julia, Ready to Glare, and she was saying that she was considering it. Hey Julia, so Onision agreed on an interview, and it probably won't happen. I don't want to do it for like the next week or so. So maybe in like 2 weeks or so. But if necessary, would you want to mediate? It wouldn't be live, of course. I don't want to do that shit live, but I'm just a little afraid if he can't handle my receipts that I might pop off on him and we might just turn into an emotional wreck. Sleep on it.
I'm telling you now, I'll mediate. I will sleep on it and I will give you a confirmation tomorrow. But I don't see why not, to be honest. And, you know, we agree that Greg's a piece of shit. So if anything, I would love to keep him accountable and be like, hey, answer to this. So I will confirm tomorrow. But as of now, I agree.
If you want to say that I'm being talked over, I'm a complete pussy in this phone call, like I'm chuckling, awkward, nervous, I'm being whatever, you can have that. But don't twist my word. Don't twist my beliefs, my core beliefs. Don't twist that. But yeah, you can call me a pussy for being like, well anyways, sure. Call me whatever names you want for my attitude. I'm learning. You know, I think now, after a year since that phone call, or almost a year, I am grown and different, and I wouldn't let them talk over me and step on me like he did then. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't allow it. But at that point in time, I acknowledged that I wasn't trained enough. So that's why I had reached out to Ready to Glare and stuff, you know, and had this call happen present day, I would hope that I am better. I can't, you know, guarantee it, but I understand that. I understand that I look terrible, but what he's doing, twisting narrative, not right.
You know, Billy has kind of been overkill.
Billy the fridge or Billy
Billy the girl.
When you say overkill, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've heard you talk about her quite a bit, and like it seems like you kind of agree that she was like the least manipulative or something like.
Wait, did Edwin?
See, so like that. Okay, hold on. That example, someone could be like, "Oh, Edwin, why are you laughing about?" Because like I kind of chuckle. So I'm like, Billy the fridge, no, Billy the girl. Like, what else am I supposed to say, right? So I chuckle. Someone could analyze this and try to make me look bad and be like, "Oh, Edwin chuckled after saying Billy the girl." I was like, "Yeah," because it sounds ridiculous. Like, how else am I supposed to describe it, right? I don't know. Again, the purpose of this phone call is to say what we're comfortable talking about, what I believe shouldn't be talked about. I was saying, bro, if it's possible, can we not talk about Billy? Because you've already gotten way too hard. And even you yourself say she's not even manipulative out of all the other girls that you're trying to call out. You know, that's what I was trying to pitch to him right there.
When you say overkill, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've heard you talk about her quite a bit, and like it seems like you kind of agree that she was like the least manipulative or something like.
Wait, did Edwin just say that the other girls are more manipulative?
And that's the part where I misspoke, and I said that like Billy's like the least manipulative or whatever. Like I wasn't trying to say she's manipulative, but he's literally said in a video, I'm pretty sure it was in one of his like 32, 35 videos. He literally said that Billy's like the least manipulative. So I was trying to use his language to like, you know, make sure he understood like, I don't think we should need to talk about Billy in this video if we do it, the interview. You know, I was trying to say that. And I look dumb as I don't mean that any of them are manipulative. He can, that's the one point that I'm saying he can have and make me look stupid. I apologize for saying that. But yeah, I don't know how else to say it. That like that's the part, when I heard that part, that's when I was like, that's what ruined my night. I was like, oh, this is so fucking embarrassing. This is so bad. I just got hacked and now I get to look like a fucking idiot because I don't think that. And like nothing beyond the phone call even supports that either. Otherwise he would have played it because I don't think that Billy is manipulative, you know. Nothing she said that has proven that. And he let me play the following part where I said that.
Well, I mean, I've heard you talk about her quite a bit, and like it seems like you kind of agree that she's like the least manipulative or something like. You said something.
Yeah. No, she's the least. She's pretty. I don't think she's mentally ill.
So he understood what I was saying. Like he got it. Like he didn't think I was saying that other girls were manipulative either. In the phone call, it made sense to him what I was trying to say. You know, like but now almost a year later, he's like, ooh, this part, let me slice it out and make it seem like he's calling other girls manipulative when that's not the fucking context at all. Sorry. God damn it, I need to chill.
He says that I agreed. Who am I agreeing with? Is Edwin saying these other girls are manipulative? And if so, why is Edwin pretending to be a white knight? Why is he pretending to be on their side when he secretly thinks that they're manipulative?
I don't think that. And I just played the context that you omitted to show that. But like I do apologize to those that saw that and got the wrong impression. It's embarrassing, and that's it. All I can say is sorry.
Just super
I mean, I don't know the full context, but yeah, I can. I think that I do think that it was them. I just think that they didn't care to get so involved with everything, and I do think that adds more legitimacy to the whole Shiloh thing. Because I think that Shiloh said her piece and continued, which is why I was like, why are you still doing here?
Wow. Okay, so he's asking why Shiloh is still campaigning against me. And reminder, Shiloh got hauled away by the police, so she wouldn't be a danger to herself or anyone around her because she actively was.
Oh,
So when I brought up how his ex-wife and her sister, like, you know, said their piece and kind of like they said their piece and that was it. And I was talking about how Shiloh just kept going and going, meaning like she kept bullying people, bullying her followers, bullying me, bullying other people, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I thought was incessant and uncalled for. I don't think that was right, what she was doing. It has nothing to do with Onision. I'm all for her trashing Onision. If Shiloh was to tweet right now, F Onision, I would retweet that right now. Okay, because I said it, I would do it. But I've never protested tweets from her against him, ever.
Side note, you're cool with weed now, or what?
Me? I don't care. You just can't do it around kids.
That's good. That's fair.
That's my job.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just trying to side note that, but
And there's Edwin's generation agreeing with me on the issue of weed, saying that my position is fair, when weed was really the root of this major issue and why I broke up with some people.
Some people, isn't it funny how he doesn't say Billy now? Even though literally just months ago he was outing, you know, something she went through that was very private, that he knows that affected her. Why doesn't he say her name now? He's a weird guy. But yeah, I don't think it's a very irrational thing to say, don't smoke weed around kids. I thought he was always against weed. Like, he's had videos where he's like super anti-weed. I don't think that Billy like smoked it in his kid's face.
They refused to stop doing it illegally.
an administrator.
Wait, illegally? So he just changed the story.
Saying that my position is fair, when weed was really the root of this major issue and why I broke up with some people's kids.
No, you're cool with weed now, or what?
Me? I don't care. You just can't do it around kids.
You can't do it around kids. He just said he doesn't mind weed as long as you don't smoke it around kids, right? But listen to his new and revised version.
That's good. That's fair.
That's my job.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just trying to side note that, but
And there's Edwin's generation agreeing with me on the issue of weed, saying that my position is fair, when weed was really the root of this major issue and why I broke up with some people because they refused to stop doing it illegally.
Illegally? Wait. Yeah, that's how I remember the story. I remember that he was complaining that it wasn't legal in Washington. Nothing to do about smoking it around kids. That was never an accusation. Wow, looks like even putting me out of context doesn't quite make you look so good, huh?
An administrator for this anti-O Facebook group literally joined my Patreon just to rant at me because I disagree with Shiloh and Chris Hansen, and I'm like, holy shit, you really paid? I mean, it's only $10, but like, just to do this shit?
Yeah, it's
like,
bizarre.
Yeah.
Again, Edwin saying that he disagreed with Hansen and Shiloh, the two head people behind the documentary, and yet Edwin's on. Two-Face Eddie.
So last year, some anti-Os were so upset with me for speaking up against Shiloh and Chris Hansen, which I've never changed my mind on. I've been very transparent and very open about, right? But his anti-Os are so angry about it that they literally paid for my Patreon. $10 to talk to me on Patreon and wasted my time for 40 minutes only to end it with saying that I expect a refund. I'm recording this and I'm gonna show my Facebook group that is anti-Onision just to show them how dumb you look. So that's what I was telling Onision, that like, yo, anti-Os are crazy. Like they came to that like I was getting harassed on Twitter. Like they literally plotted a harassment like on their Facebook group. They were like, Edwin, let's go. They literally said the words, let's go attack Edwin on Twitter. They said the words, let's go attack him. And then I was getting harassed. This is after I did my videos on Shiloh and I did a live stream on Chris Hansen. They got so angry. And then eventually, this is the administrator of a Facebook group called Kai is Crying.
Documentaries are supposed to have opposing voices to not appear biased. There's nothing wrong with Edwin being on the doc when he doesn't agree with Hansen and Shiloh.
Yo, look, call me biased, but I think that I have some pretty intelligent subscribers.
I don't get into the legal stuff. Like when Keemstar came into my live stream, he's like, well, wait, is that legal? I'm like, look, I never tried to argue that. So
Edwin's generation saying he never tried to argue that I did anything illegal. In other words, this is all just a bunch of social standard opinions.
I never try to argue they did anything illegal or legal because I'm not that kind of person. I'm not out here trying to push that kind of message. I'm not saying, guys, he's going to go to jail. I've never said that in my videos. I've never said that when he's going to jail because I don't know. I've just said that Chris Hansen shouldn't be pushing this concept of the FBI is onto him and all that, because I think that implies such a narrative. I don't know what's gonna happen. Didn't know back then, don't know now.
My social standards are this, and you offend my social standards.
whether we do this,
Whoa, wait, is that not the kinds of videos that you have made so many of, Onision? Oh, my social standards? What about your social standards? What about making 70 plus videos on Eugenia? Why are your social standards impeding onto her business, huh?
I know what is coming to him and he doesn't, or something like that. So I'm like, okay, so if you're holding on to something, then why even entertain his name anymore? Like that's what I'm confused about. Why does he keep bringing you up if something's going to happen to you? That's my main question.
Again, Edwin questioning the credibility of Chris Hansen, who Two-Face Eddie now stands on the same side as.
I don't stand on Chris Hansen's side. I still think his credibility is sketchy. Okay, what? Jesus, this is getting lame.
My terms are always what I'm telling you now. You know, like a couple weeks or so, I'll try to gather everything if you're still into it. Because fucking every day is changing out here in the quarantine, man.
He's talking about doing a interview with me, which he later on demanded I pay $500 to charity to even talk to him. So
this is cute. He's like I already explained it, but he's trying to rebuild the narrative, right? So again, he emailed me to do a live stream. I said, no. Look, my plan is this. You record yourself talking to me and I record myself, and then you tell me everything. I interview you, I ask you questions. If you mention somebody, I'll get their side of the story and then I'll edit it down into a video. Boom. He agreed to it. Then eventually I didn't quite get around to him until I finally emailed him again, and then he changed his mind. He's like, I want to do a live stream. And then that's when he insulted me and he's called me like effing slow. I already explained this in the other video. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And then he ended up going on Nicholas DeOrio's live stream, and that's when he compared his 24-year-old at the time partner, Kai, sending a nude picture to, at the time, 17-year-old Sarah. He compared that to going to a nude beach. Should we watch that? Have you guys seen that? Because it took a while. It took a while for Onision to accept that his partner had indeed sent, inappropriate photos to an underage person. It took a while. But he finally admitted it, or accepted the fact that it happened to Nicholas DeOrio on a live stream on the same day that he was like, call me slow. I was like, okay, I'm not dealing with your shit anymore. Because I was so respectful. You guys hear me in this call. I'm being respectful. Okay, against my better wishes. And then he started like cursing at me. I'm like, no, not doing this anymore. And then he went on Nicholas DeOrio's stream. So let me find it. I know some of you guys may not think the best of Nicholas DeOrio, but man, when I'm telling you, he owned Onision. Yeah, he put him in his place.
My argument is that someone was never supposed to have something in the first place. You're trying to make someone a predator when they never ever would ever send that shit to somebody with any conscious
Dude,
effort.
I think somebody's lying to you.
What are you talking about?
I think that's what you were told. Maybe I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt here. If there was a naked picture sent to a minor, it doesn't matter what the context was. That's a naked picture sent to a minor. You're not going to win that argument.
Right, but all you're talking about is a nipple slip, dude.
And a vagina, dude.
Did you see the picture uncensored?
Was it not there?
From what I saw, there was nothing. And when I say there's nothing, I mean there's nothing disturbing or anything about it. A nipple slip and the what was down there was not sexual. It was not.
Well, how is a naked picture not sexual?
Have you ever been to a nude beach?
Yeah, you don't take pictures and send pictures of people at a nude beach to kids, dude.
What the fuck? Okay, I'm gonna introduce a totally different concept to you. What is NC-17?
You guys are familiar with Nicholas DeOrio. You guys know how he's pretty intense and abrasive, right? He even sounds to me a little bit out of breath, and you can tell that Onision is constantly talking over him. That's how he is. So yeah, like I'll admit it. I was weak in that phone call. He stepped over me. Sure, I don't mind admitting it. I would like to think that if it happened again, I wouldn't be such a weak bitch. But hey, the point is that like Onision's fucking intense, dude. He's intense. Nicholas DeOrio, whether you like him or not, he fucking owned Onision. Check this out.
If you have to worry about a fucking nipple, like for instance, if I have an Instagram or something like that, and my fucking
isn't fair. Edwin has fucking called
all about money, and you gotta like promote it and do all this fucking crazy shit, or do you just want the truth to come out? And why is everybody so fucking bothered when I say do it for charity or do it demonetized? You know, like fucking Blair White wanted an interview with me, right?
Dude, Blair White's a fucking hack. I'm gonna just say that out here in the middle of the street. I want everyone to know that.
I called out Blair White, and she's a fucking hack. I called out Repsian, fucking hack. I called out Hansen, fucking hack. I'm right about fucking. I can't think of a person I was wrong about. I apologize for Shane Dawson, and turns out I was right about him. So I was wrong for apologizing, I guess, or whatever. But shit, people, I fucking called.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you something right now. This isn't fair. Edwin has fucking called out a lot of fucking people who are calling you out, God, and he's held people responsible. I think he's dude.
So
I think he's
terrible to talk to. If you saw the emails between us, it's just like this guy just does not fucking get it
because he's responding to you. He's not just he's not telling you what you want to hear. He's giving you actual answers.
Well, no, because okay, so look at it from this perspective. I know exactly what happened. And in most every situation, I don't know about the text conversations Kai had with anybody. I did not see it myself, so I cannot say.
So how are you sure it's an accident if you don't know what happened?
I'm sure that Kai would never do that, is what I'm saying.
So that's what I meant when I said I think someone's lying to you.
So when Kai talks to me and says that was never supposed to happen, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I agree. That's that, because Kai never. Dude, you're talking about a person who cried after they got blackmailed into having sex with Sarah. Kai literally cried, like trauma cried. Okay, because you're talking about someone who was just legally raped. Like,
but dude, you're accusing Sarah of rape. Like, do you understand how crazy?
She admitted to it. She literally apologized for raping us twice.
So why don't you call the police?
Because when you're a victim of, you don't always want to ever see that fucker's face again.
Like, dude, someone like Nicholas DeOrio is not easy to get to this level.
Billy, Shiloh.
Yeah, like 8 girlfriends in between though.
Relationship if their life depended on it, because you got 2 people who have serious mental problems, and the third person was institutionalized shortly before we ever dated her.
Dude, you're just calling out people right now for the sake of calling them out. You're like, this isn't helping.
No, I'm establishing facts, dude.
You're doing what Chris Hansen does. You're doing what Chris Hansen does. You're just you're listing. Dude, you're starting a stream by listing their flaws.
I'm listing their psychological state, which led them to be pathologically liars.
That's so nice of you, but no, that doesn't help anything. You're not giving any examples.
See, the funny thing is he's talking about psychological state to prove what led them to be psychological liars. I strongly believe the way he treated it and was with Shiloh led her to perhaps be the way that she is today. But that doesn't discredit her story. In fact, if you watch the first episode of the documentary on Onision, there's nothing she lies about. Everything can be fact checked. That's the great part, because he documents everything. Like, the few things that maybe can be fact checked is, I guess, like, she says that the first thing that he wanted to do when they met up is have sex with her. I guess there's no camera. They didn't vlog that. But is it hard to believe? I mean, other than that, everything is literally like already been like cataloged by not just him, but also his haters.
Okay, so you saw the cracks with Shiloh, obviously, yes?
Yeah, obviously she was a fucking maniac to me. But that doesn't mean she's lying about everything.
Dude, she would lie about the smallest shit. There was this time when she said that she was knocked out by this kickboxer trainer, right? She says, oh, I was knocked out while training because, of course, her record label wanted her to lose weight because they hate fat people or some stupid shit like record labels.
Dude, get the fuck out of here. I'm done. Good night. This is ridiculous. I'm not fucking dealing with that shit.
We gotta find.
So, just like that, Nicholas DeOrio fucking just dropped him because he starts randomly fat shaming Shiloh. Because that's not what this is about, you know? I had to sit through a lot of that.
He's talking about doing a interview with me, which he later on demanded I pay $500 to charity to even talk to him. So he wouldn't, I guess, have to actually officially talk to me.
Again, I did a whole video covering this, okay? So after he refused to do the interview in the original way, which he seemed fine to do with, you know, you guys saw the email I showed earlier, he had agreed to it. And I just said, let's do a phone call. And he literally said, it's your show. Okay. He agreed to it. Then he changed his mind. He said, let's only do it live stream. And then he dissed me. And I said, I don't need this shit. So, but then again, he decides to call me out publicly on Twitter. I said, okay, I'm not afraid of you. Stop trying to play like the big tough guy on the playground, dude. I'm not scared of you. So, you know, by then I'm like, okay, I can do this. But he wants me to do it on that day. And I have plans that day to hang out with my brother. Well, I'm sorry, right? I mean, and again, this is all covered in my video on Edwin's Generation. But he tries to make it be like, it's going to be a fundraiser or we don't talk. What do you want to do? Super chats? I'm like, no, I can easily remove super chats if that bothers you so much. But if we're going to make a fundraiser, let's at least meet in the middle and both agree to donate some money. Let's lead by example, right? He refused. I just threw out the figure $500. I didn't demand him. We could have done $10, dude. I literally say that too. I said that to him and he refused. We could have donated both $10.
And instead could just talk about me on a documentary where no one can offer a counter argument. Anyway,
he makes it sound as if like I had a secret plan to like be on a documentary back in January when the documentary idea didn't even exist yet. No, honey, no. I wasn't even asked to be on documentary until like mid to late August, and I didn't even agree to it till like October, which is after you were trying to challenge me and shit. Shut the fuck up! I don't need to explain myself to you, bitch.
You were talking about how great Edwin was?
This was an unpopular decision for him to make. And I don't think this is him selling out or shilling or whatever people are trying to say.
Edwin is a sellout. Edwin is a two-face, and you shouldn't defend him because he's a rat. A slimy little rat.
Because this was an unpopular decision for him to make.
It was unpopular because it didn't add up. You don't say, I'm not going to be on a documentary because I respect people, and then go on the documentary anyway and be like, well, actually, I'm going to be on here because, you know, I just want to make sure it's accurate.
Wait a second. Is this why people... This is why I've been getting comments, like literally after this video came out on January 4th, after this, dude, this makes sense. I've been getting comments repeating the things that he's been saying, and now it makes sense. Do we need to watch the rest? I think we did good. He doesn't talk to me about me after this. I think it's mostly about Shannon now. And thank you. If you guys saw that and you were deceived, again, I don't blame you. I know I look like a major pussy in that call. I get it. So, but thank you for being patient with me. That's all I'm saying. How you feeling? I'm feeling much better now that I let that off my chest because it feels like, dude, after being hacked and having like, you know, a bunch of DMs and all this shit, like just that, it felt so intrusive and so violating of your privacy, you know, like, and now this, like that ruined my night 2 nights ago or whenever that came out, that video ruined my night, pissed me off. I'm good now though.
Look, I don't know how you feel about this, right? Because I guess trying to just be as fair as I can here. Yeah, I think the issue a lot of people had, right, with you doing the documentary, to my understanding, and I just want to see if you agree with this, a lot of people that I would say like are within your circle, like Repsion and some others, came out pretty hard against the documentary, and you never really made a statement very definitive on it one way or the other, and a lot of people kind of took that as you just sort of agreeing with their stance on it, right? And I kind of feel like you would get less pushback had you have at the time just come forward and said that you were going to be doing it. Because you never... that's the way I take it, right? I don't know if that's fair or if that's how everyone else saw it.
No, that is definitely fair. And I get it. It's just like, you know, the way some people like jumped in assumptions were super insulting is that's the only thing that was like getting to me. Because, and you know, I was literally just hoping because they told me, they're like, hey, so we sent this to some YouTubers. So like, oh fuck, god damn it. So I was like mentally, like before it got leaked, I was like, damn it. Because like I was finishing up the Marilyn Manson video, and like I I would have loved to be able to tell people first. And like, Onision wasn't really a topic as much anymore, and it didn't really come up. It wasn't something that was asked or whatever. And yeah, no, I get that what you're saying though with the association and stuff, but yeah, I don't really know if I even answered, if you even asked. I was just gonna say.
No, I get it. I don't know if that's like the most fair way of criticizing you on it, right? But I would say is, I think that, you know, hindsight being 2020, you should have just went ahead and said like, hey, yeah, I'm going to be doing the documentary. Even if it's like just like a quick fucking thing on Twitter or something, I think you would have avoided a lot of the backlash that you're kind of getting on it. I know that you probably don't feel like some of that backlash is fair, but I guess people just made the assumption that you were against doing the documentary, right? And you doing it, that's kind of where I feel like you get most of your pushback from on it.
Yeah. No, I agree. So like basically what I'm saying is, yeah, no, I get it. And like, well, we can move forward now, guys. Like, yeah, no, I wish I could have, like, so badly. And it's just like, yeah, it's just, I didn't really, I wasn't in the mindset to do it just right. And yeah, the shoulda, coulda, woulda is really the only thing. Agree. I think we agree.
I do think that Chris Hansen did have a point about not wanting to do a live stream with the guy.
Yeah.
Because that's something that he will absolutely do immediately.
Sure.
Now, I did have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Did you already address the Creepshow art stuff?
Well, I responded to Onision's video and he talked about it, so I'm not sure exactly what stuff you're referring to, but talked about it briefly.
Basically the stuff that was in that video, because I got to be honest, right? If the goal of the documentary is to bring it out to a larger audience, and you know that's why you want to be involved in it, that makes sense to me, right? Because I do think that it is important to get the story out to a larger audience and make more people aware, right? The one person who left that chat,
he's like, I've already made the conscious effort of, I'm not making another Onision video on my Edwin's Generation channel. Like he's just a waste of time. Like,
well, let me ask you, right? And I'm not trying to be a dick here, because I understand that you were not expecting him to release that call, right?
Wait, what?
I understand you were not expecting him to release that.
Oh yeah,
call
yeah,
not,
right.
But you know the type of person Onision is.
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm not gonna say that. Like I was wearing a skirt. He should have felt me. I should have known he was gonna feel me up.
Well, I dude, like, no disrespect to you or anything, right? But knowing the type of person.
Yeah. Okay, I already heard it from my other friends. Okay, I've heard it. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I know. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not. Believe me, buddy. I'm not trying to attack you on it, right? It's just I've dealt with people like that, or at least, you know, people that are just disgusting and disingenuous, amoral people. It's like you gotta be so much more careful talking to someone like that, because some of that stuff in there, right? I listened to it at first and I'm like, dude, because he told you that he was recording you, and then I was like, fuck, man, because I already know that if he says he's going to record a private conversation, that stuff is going to get out there, and it's going to be presented in the worst possible light for you.
And look, I definitely acknowledge I made a mistake by being respectful. Like, literally, my mistake with Onision is being respectful and treating him like I would treat any other person that I would interview. That was my mistake. Isn't that funny? Like, I was respectful with him. Damn, I was civil. That sucks. I chose the wrong person to be civil with. Why would you be respectful to Greg? Look, like I said, guys, please don't kick me when I'm down, okay? I made a mistake. I said sorry already, please. Part of me wishes I was a better speaker. I mean, damn, you guys heard me in that call. Like, I stumble in my words and stuff. And even in live streams, like, I'm not that good sometimes, but when I am, I'm good. So, in an interesting turn of events, Discovery Plus has announced that there will be a 4th episode to the Onision in Real Life documentary featuring an interview with Sarah. This has been a lot to process. Yeah. But with that being said, I also wanted to update and let you guys know that I have unlisted the previous upload, which was me discussing my involvement in the documentary, because obviously it aged terribly, considering how I was talking about how part of the reason why I did it was because it wasn't supposed to step on anybody's toes, but it did. But now the toes that were stepped on are participating. I'm just so confused. Anyways, if you want to revisit it, I put the link in my new video to Chris Hansen, as well as in the description of this video. Thank you for your support.